let's take a dive back to 2006, a golden age of gaming for the next few years until at least 2018. But we're going to be talking about today on this episode of the Lorepod podcast, Resistance, the Fall of Man. And I use an epic voice because my God, is this game epic and crazy as hell. And holy shit, does it deserve a movie. Where are you at, everybody? Resistance 4, Resistance the TV series, Resistance the movie. Let it happen. But listen here, if you clicked on this link on the podcast, welcome to Lorepod Podcast. I'm your host, Dakota Morgan, coming to you from Phoenix, Arizona. But big thing being, here we are. Let's dive into the story of the first Resistance game. And if you like it, be sure to let me know on social media or, subscribe to the channel wherever you listen to, because Resistance 2 and 3 are a storyline we can cover. So again, if you like it, let me know. But now, without the business out of the way, let's dive into the Fall of Man. Not 2025, but the Resistance video game. Came out in 2006 and created by Insomniac Games, which has created a lot of fan favorites. The storyline takes place in the early 1900s. Russia is invaded by Crimea. And what does that mean, Crimea? A lot of translation to that. Crimea is an alien force that aka a virus, though, as well as the alien force, that infects humans and changes them into units for their army. Now, in the early 1900s, though, this is going to be a thing that's going to be kept secret, and it's a lot easier to keep secret, especially in Russia. Now, due to biological warfare happening, the news actually broke out eventually in the 1930s to the world that things were starting to happen. Cities in Russia were beginning to disappear. No one was inside of these cities. Populations disappearing. Russia began a little bit quiet. And they were able to contain the Crimea threat for at least a few years, building a giant wall, having turrets, being able to contain it, which, by the way, is extremely impressive. But in this universe, I should make it clear right in the beginning here, there is no World War II. It's World War Crimea. So the world eventually found out what was happening with the virus, the Crimean virus, which was mutating people into these alien creature-esque things that, I should make it clear, weren't just like ravenous monsters that would bite you like zombies. Actually a thing where it was alien-esque humanoids that were changed, of course, but could operate technology and weaponry. And I actually had somewhat of a basis of technology for their own and created their own weapons and high-tech technology due to, the main Crimean alien force. That being said, this wasn't a run-of-the-mill zombie thing. This is humans being changed into the enemy. And the enemy could operate machine guns and ships. Had a good technology about stuff. Some of the enemy, though, could kill you. More on that later, just by brute force and biting you. So in 1949, the European countries fell in a matter of weeks after the wall and the quarantine finally broke. America, though, during this whole time, staying out of it. Kind of like World War II. In 1950, the Crimea finally, though, went after the UK after taking the whole major continent of Europe due to the fact they burrowed underneath the channel and just emerged and were like, hey, bitch, fuck you. And so all the units appeared, and not just walking units, like machinery, tripods, walking tanks, monstrous-ass creatures. All of them appeared in Britain, and Britain did not last long. Even though they had fortified defenses, as we know we hear from a trailer and the intro video for the game, they fortified themselves, but it actually just didn't fucking work as much as they tried, which you're facing an alien foe. The suicide rate must have been high during this shit. And I should also make it clear, during this time, America quarantined itself off in 1950. So it really, around this time, a couple years, they decided, oh no, we don't want Americans to hear about this. We want to be on our own. Very early 1900s America, they decided, okay, we're going to monitor airwaves. We're going to monitor for, radio during that time. We're going to monitor the news being poured in here and not allow the people to know. They closed off their borders and didn't allow their people to know what was happening into the world, like Europe with the Crimea and all that shit. They had no idea what was happening. Well, that sounds like 2025. Besides that point, we're going to be going now, after all this backstory, we follow into our character Nathan Hale. Sergeant Nathan Hale, should I say. For the American Army that was tied into a mission to land in York due to a trade supply that was going to happen with the remaining British people who weren't converted yet. And they're going to give them supply. The American country, USA, was going to give them supplies. And then in turn, they were going to give them America something to help win the war, possibly, to say, a secret weapon of sorts. The American troops, though, had no fucking idea of this Crimea threat, what they were going into, anything like that. New shit was happening. They had no idea what was happening exactly. And these are monster-esque fucking creatures, by the way. So that, the biggest gaslighting of all is what it is. When this did happen, though, they were landing in York, and Sergeant Hale was actually the only survivor of this whole ordeal. Multiple ships, by the way, and as a podcast, I should make it clear, they're not flying in on, like, old bombers and stuff. Tech has been slightly upgraded because of the weird fucking world they're living in, and alien tech and shit like that. So imagine what a 1950s-esque Osprey would look like. The helicopter/plane vehicle that we have in today. Imagine that being a thing, and that's their main mode of transportation, aerial, which is dope as hell, with a couple other tech upgrades too. But of course, the American government knew what was going on. That's going to allow them to get tech upgrades and secretly put shit in. And of course, there was no World War II. There was alien invasion/alien virus going on here. So they were able to take in and experiment and do their own shit. And things were held back a little bit. Still no TVs. But at least some things were upgraded. Mainly military tech. Now, of course, so, as any early game, Hale was the only survivor of this mission in York. And at the end of this mission, though, there was the swarm, which is a bunch of tiny little bugs that do swarm humans and take their bodies and put them in a transplant, but then also infects them with the Crimea virus. And at the very end of this, you do get infected. Resistance has a lot of body horror. I love that. Besides the point. And of course, I should make it clear, I have a Midwestern accent. If horror sounds like horror or anything like that, just know what I'm talking about here. Horror. Distinction. I'm from Illinois. What do you expect? So, due to one of the flying tentacle monsters that were a thing until a spin-off game on like the PSP, which we may cover that later, again, depending on how much you guys like this, Hale was taken to a conversion center, which in the Resistance 1, should make it clear, is a place where they did transform you, depending on what you're going to go into, among the Crimea monsters, the alien-esque things that they are with the virus. Now, Nathan does escape with the Resistance fighter Parker, who is, of course, a big thing in here, and might I add, probably a thing for inspiration for the Parker in Cold War for Call of Duty, because she's a British Resistance fighter, of course. So the virus does depend on the conversion center and what type of virus you are infected with, to depend if you're going to be a ground unit that actually was this like bipedal humanoid-esque monster-looking thing that actually had tech inside of it, and the tech was actually implanted. Again, this is the Lorepod, so we're getting deep in the lore. The machinery that you do see that's fused into a lot of the Crimea is due to the fact of their high metabolism. Now, apparently their metabolism would keep them so, because of it, would keep their body temperatures at a huge, like over 120 degrees, 130 degrees. Not making it so the environment that they live in currently, which is Earth, is not going to make it too hospitable for them. At that point, they actually have cooling units that are injected and implanted into the humanoid Crimeas. Neat little deep cut in there, by the way. So it explains why they have tech infused with their body. It's to help keep their body cool due to a high-as-fuck metabolism. And during this course, as you can expect, Hale is infected. So Hale is infected here, but he doesn't seem to turn. Now, that's also a big thing about it. Why isn't he turning? What's going on with that? More to come later on. And due to extra pieces of things you can find, basically, into the game, Parker's intel suggests that the larger creatures that you do find, the larger Crimea creatures, are actually multiple human bodies combined. That's fucked. So, like, the more larger creature you do see there was made due to multiple human bodies being fused together. Body horror shit. And I love every second of it. Now, as Nathan and Parker do escape from this facility, she does know he is infected. But like other people throughout the game, doesn't seem to care too much about it here. And at that point, they're like, okay, he's infected, but he hasn't turned yet. And it's been a while. And also, he's killing all the Crimea with us, and he's helping us out, and he's very human still. All right, that's fine. Like, we're at that point. We're like, Europe's gone. Britain's basically gone. America's somehow fucking surviving. Africa's fucked. It's all fucked. Asia's going down. Like, the Crimea virus is spreading, and it's bad. So they're like, all right, wine, whatever. Now, after they escape there, they do fight trench warfare style in Manchester against the Crimea. And they do figure out what was going on. So what they're trying to give to the Americans and what they're actually trying to figure out and destroy is a thing called an angel. And an angel is one of the more Crimean-esque without the virus here. So one of the more real Crimeas that has a psychic hold over the, it's not Bob Marley, a psychic hold over the rest of the Crimea forces. Now, the Crimean angel was actually brought to the base and such that they had captured, which they're going to get over to the Americans. And this angel was killed by Nathan here. So Nathan actually did kill his Crimea, showcasing to everybody he doesn't have much more Crimea. He has a lot of Crimea in him, but he still has humanity left over. Isn't that nice? Now, at this point, we do get a thing called the Crimea Tower, which was unburied due south. And of course, you got to deal with that. The Crimea Tower is going to be spreading out the virus and such like that as well. And there's a few other things, which we'll talk about later. And due to where we know it is, the tower did emerge only 12 miles away from London, by the way, which London's already gone at this point. And due to the intel that they do have about the Crimea from mainland Europe, that if they do destroy the tower, the Crimea in the area will fumble and fall. That's a big hope and it's a big wish. At this point where our characters are located, they did blow bridges to stop the Crimea tanks, which are walking tanks here, and with few legs, which make them very dangerous to say the least. Now, this tower, as they do pursue on here, they actually do find out that the angels, of course, as a type of virus here, they're more related to the main species of Crimea, but the angels is still a hybrid. Now, the virus that actually turns people into angels is actually contained in the tower, making it a big, this shit's gotta go. And during this whole ensuing battle, it is destroyed by hail, luckily, allowing them to quickly take out the Crimea in the surrounding area, and giving humanity a little bit of a strong foothold here and allowing them to take their tech and help reverse engineer it, which makes it so humanity gets a little bit of a tech upgrade and resistance too. In 1950s, gives a little bit of an explanation about that. During this whole explosion of the tower and the battle that happened, Nathan Hale's body was never officially recovered as of Resistance 1. But if you do follow to the end of the credits, you do see that these weird tech spec ops soldiers have arrived, and they actually do take a surviving, living, breathing Nathan Hale, who's still infected, by the way, which is the only reason why he's been able to survive all this crazy-ass bullets and shit, is because of that. But they do take him away to some secret place. Now, we don't know what that is until Resistance 2. But that is Resistance, The Fall of Man. The storyline summed up for you guys here. The Crimea virus, characters, what's going on, the alternate history here. And if you all enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe for new episodes of the Lorepod podcast every Monday, wherever you're listening here. And of course, these episodes are going to be on YouTube. My YouTube page is Dakota Morgan. For those interested in video games, I have a Twitch page, CodaRex97, Instagram at Dakota_Morgan97, and X at Dakota Morgan 3. With those usernames will be in the description boxes down below. But again, if you guys did enjoy it, be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening to this. Leave a review. Helps the show out greatly here. I love geeking out and talking about lore shit with you all. So if you love listening to it, be sure to let me know. I'd greatly appreciate it, everybody. And of course, as always, stay nerdy and stay creative.